Hi everyone. Today in this video, I would like to talk about something very crucial that most people overlook while considering a career in academia and while joining IISER, which is a long-term perspective of a career in academia. Now we all know it takes about 5 years for your BSMS degree from IISER, ISC, and other institutions if you do integrated MS. Now after this, there are several opportunities that one can take. Now the obvious one is going into academia, which is basically doing PhD. The second one is basically leaving academia and getting an MBA/an MTech. And the third one is joining the industry. Now this may entail joining as a scientific officer in some government agency, or some other government job, or private industry. Now in this video, I'd like to focus on the long-term perspectives when one decides to join academia, that is go for a PhD. I've made a separate video talking about other career opportunities like MBA, MTech, and jobs in industry after IISER. So do check that out if you're interested in that. But in this video, I'll be specifically talking about a long-term perspective of a career in academia. Now, PhD is basically your first stepping stone towards a career in academia. Now here, I'd like to break some myths about doing a PhD. PhDs are almost always paid. PhD is basically a job that of a researcher. Now this means if you do a PhD in India or abroad, you usually get a stipend if you work as a student, or a salary if you work as an employee. Also, PhD is a full-time job. That means you get enough stipend to basically sustain yourself and even save money. But this also means that you can't do something on your side. It requires your full commitment. During a PhD, you basically have to get some new and novel research done, which basically means you get paid to work as a researcher to get new knowledge. And usually, success is not guaranteed. As one can imagine, since you are in a totally uncharted territory, there's a good chance that your experiment might fail, or your proposed hypothesis might not work out to be true. PhD is also your last chance to exit academia, because after a PhD, when you become a postdoc, you become very overqualified to get a position in industry. I'm not saying that it's impossible to get a position while you are a postdoc. However, it's much harder for a postdoc to get a position compared to a PhD. Even PhDs in most places are considered overqualified for positions in industry. We now move on to the second step of a career in academia, which is postdocs. Now, in a postdoc, one works to get more research experience, and publications. Basically, one prepares to start a group of their own. Now, a postdoc is not a permanent position. These are usually 2 to 3 year based temporary positions. Now, in today's landscape, one might have to do 2 to 3 postdocs to get a position in a school, that is, as an assistant prof, as we call it in India. Now, this means it will take about, say, if it says it takes about 5 years for your PhD, then another 6 years a postdoc. It will mean around 11 years of work to get a position. This is after earning a 5-year master's degree. So this means around 16 years after doing a class 12th to get a position. After class 12th. Now, in most places in India, even assistant prof positions can be contractual. And it can take you an unspecified amount of time, usually about 2 to 3 years, to become an associate professor, which is usually permanent position. Now this means around 20 years of work to get a position after your class 12th. In this hall, I haven't talked about the amount of competition that is there in entering from one stage to the other stage. In a good university like IISER, student to teacher ratio is around 10:1. This means that, say, even if of this 10 people per teacher, around 7 were to take a career in academia, most won't succeed. So this is something one has to consider, that getting a permanent position in academia can be a really daunting and time-taking task. So beware of this before joining academia. It takes time and effort.